In this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super, Goku does battle with the mysterious Goku Black. This week's episode of DBS was pretty damn solid, lots of classic Dragon Ball action. However, I have to admit, Goku's tendency to not to want to power up to his most strongest form always ends up biting him in the ass in some senses. I mean, this was his opportunity to help out future Trunks, to save his future, and instead, he's dicking around and having a good time. But honestly, I don't think I'd have it any other way. This week's episode, Goku vs. Goku Black, was pretty damn satisfying. Not only was the action really cool, but we're starting to learn a little bit more about Goku Black and what his connection is to the Kaioshin, otherwise known as the Supreme Kais. Before Goku and Black decide to have their battle, you'll notice that Beerus realizes that something's not quite right about this Goku Black character, especially because he has a time ring, an object which only belongs to the Kaioshin. Again, giving him a big connection to that character that we see in the intro of Dragon Ball Super. Either this is that Kaioshin, or this is some sort of weird creature that has the ability to assimilate other people into its body. The only reason I say that is because there is a scene in this episode where Black mentions that he is using a specific body, the one of Goku. How he actually obtained this, I have no idea. And what his overall motives are still pretty damned mysterious. No one really knows. I love the way the battle between Goku and Black begins, because Black actually ends up hitting Goku with this big massive ki blast, which sends Goku flying into the ever-convenient, super desolate, massive, huge thing that's a bajillion miles wide, which doesn't exist in real life, but it's right over there. And yes, I did just reference the Egoraptor Classic DBZ in a nutshell. And honestly, it's hilarious. The Game Grump has a freaking point. It's hilarious how these giant, massive, craggy rock battlefields just always exist so conveniently right next to a city. Maybe it's just to emphasize how powerful Goku Black is that he was able to push Goku this far away. And it is worth noting that Goku hasn't even transformed yet, because that's not the way Goku does things. He has to sort of assess how powerful his opponent is going to be. And this includes allowing himself to get blasted by giant destructive ki blasts. However, right after this, Goku just immediately goes into a Super Saiyan 2 transformation and just wails on Black. They're in many ways kind of on even terms, because Black does continuously sort of power up throughout the battle and does get a good few licks in. But as the battle is going on, that weird portal that he went through is actually starting to suck him back in. And at the very end, he immediately gets thrown back to his original timeline and apparently can't go back in time anymore. According to Beerus and Whis, all the Kaioshin have these rings which allow them to travel forward in time and back to the present. They're actually not allowed to go to the past. So somehow Goku Black has found some way to get around this? I'm not quite sure, but honestly, I'm even more intrigued by his backstory the more we get further in this arc. The big shocker of this week's episode is that before Black disappears, he decides to destroy Trunks' time machine. But Bulma luckily remembers that she had in an old capsule hidden away the time machine that was used by Cell. So it looks like she's going to be able to reverse engineer this bitch, and we'll get ready to travel forward in time to destroy Goku Black and save the future. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? This one was just classic. I really loved this one a lot. It had some of the best fighting choreography that I've seen from Dragon Ball Super thus far, but then again, it's not exactly reinventing the wheel. But there are still enough cool moments and a lot of wow and impact factor to give any action junkie something they can really bite into this week. While a lot of the moves that they're doing are really not all that unique, I do like a lot of the different camera sweeps that they're using. I especially love that one where they both punch each other and it spins around them, and then you have that scene where Goku Black is flying towards the ground, he tries to ricochet back up and deflect all the attacks coming from Goku. There's a lot of fluidity in the battle, which is something that I really appreciate. On the technical side of things, it's also worth noting that the artwork in this episode looked pretty solid. For the most part. I mean, there were a few scenes where maybe some of the characters looked a little strange, but this was still a pretty good-looking episode, and I'm even more excited to see the future battles with Goku Black. I really hope that Trunks is going to get involved as well, as he's one of the major characters from this arc, and I would hate for him to be completely overshadowed by Goku and Vegeta, despite the fact that they make it very clear that Goku and Vegeta could probably just wail on Goku Black, especially if they just went into full God mode, but still, there's something quite not right about this Goku Black character. The fact that he, like, continuously is able to power up in the battles, he having some sort of connection to the Kaioshin as well, he has a God's Ki. Clearly, this is something that Beerus notices. They don't say this outright, but that's my theory anyway. I'm guessing that this Kaioshin is actually within Goku Black somehow, with a lot of other forms. I am still convinced that Goku Black can transform into a number of different people that he's either absorbed or just because of things that he's actually seen. There's a lot of really cool development here for this crazy future time travel story. It's only going to get nuttier in next week's episode, as it looks like Mai is going to be okay. I had a feeling that she was going to survive. It felt kind of stupid to just sort of kill her off because she's a really unique element of this story, despite the fact that you might not like the Pilaf gang. And they also get to do something kind of useful in this episode, which ends up becoming pointless. That's when they become firefighters to try and put out the fire that was created by Goku Black when he destroyed the time machine, but Bulma just has the one that was hijacked by Cell, so everything's gonna be fine. I still find the inclusion of the Pilaf gang a puzzling one. I mean, do they really have that many fans? At the end of the day, however, this was a pretty solid episode of Dragon Ball Super, which had a lot of classic action and a really cool battle between Goku and Goku Black. Goku Black is a really interesting villain, and I can't wait to learn more about his past and why he's been traveling through time and his connection to the Kaioshin. It's going to be a really interesting story. Not to mention, it looks like we're going to be going forward into the future, so we're finally going to see the characters from the present timeline going to Trunks' future, which I think is going to be a really interesting prospect, as that's essentially an alternate future and just about anything could happen. I mean, just imagine, we might see the alternate versions of Beerus and Whis. That's really strange to think that there's another pair of them out there, considering that there's also Champa and Vados as well, so it's just very, very strange, but I love that they're going in this direction. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And this week's episode was also pretty damn kick-ass, so I'm going to drop a 4 out of 5 on this one. Some of the artwork and animation moments look a little sloppy, but for the most part, this was a pretty damn solid episode of Dragon Ball Super, so make sure to check it out, Dragon Ball fans. You might see something you like. But you heard my thoughts about this week's episode. Tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super. Now that we've learned a little bit more about Goku Black, who do you think he is? Why does he exist? What is his overall motive? And what do you want to see from the rest of the future Trunks arc? Make sure to tell me in the comments section below. Thank you for sticking around this long. If you liked this video, make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and comment. You should also subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be able to see all of our latest videos. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.